Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Around the Horn. I'm your host, Claudia Chakamian, and joined by Connor Federico and Sam Corman. We're another week into the season. What are your thoughts so far?
Well, I think that the Gatemen are playing very well when the whole lineup is working, and they're doing great things at the top of the lineup. Jaron Duran, Kyle Kasser, whoever's there, they're proving to be catalysts in the leadoff spot. And it goes all the way down 1 through 9 in the lineup. Guys, no matter where they're hitting, 1 through 9, if it's in the top of the order, the heart of the order, or the bottom, there's production all around the Gatemen lineup. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from the team. I think they're clicking at this point in the season.
Yeah, and I think this lineup is really starting to take shape with Stephen Kwan coming in now, and as well as all the other recent additions, especially Kyle Kasser, that late addition to this roster. And the Gatemen lineup is just looking really good from top to bottom on paper and showing up in the games as well. William McIver has just been consistent throughout the entire season. You have the same from John Toppa down at the bottom of the order, provides that extra power, some extra opposite field hitting from that bottom part of the order. And, a lot of the other guys are stepping in. You have a good versatility. You have Jaron Duran, a speed guy. You have Kyle Kasser, kind of do a little bit of everything. Then you have some power hitters like McIver has some power, and Tristan Pompey has some power. So, a lot of versatility in the lineup as well to add to that.
And that's something that Don Sneddon talked to me about after one of the games. He has a lot of versatility in that lineup. Duran playing leadoff. Tristan Pompey hit leadoff at Kentucky. Stephen Kwan hit leadoff. So he has those options to make the lineup go wherever he wants to go, and has options all the way down through the lineup. Like you're saying, McIver is providing power at the bottom, Toppa. So he has those options to make it all work.
Yeah, and there's plenty of power and speed on this team no matter who you're going to get. And we haven't even talked about Tanner Dodson, who earlier this week had a 4-for-4 day and pitched 3 scoreless innings. He's been absolutely fantastic, one of the leaders in batting average on this team. Guys like Willie McIver and Tristan Pompey, who lead the team in RBIs. Jaron Duran has a triple. Robbie Metz has a couple doubles. So we've seen this team get extra base hits. We've seen them leg out stolen bases. The speed with the power, the combination of the two, it's deadly, and it's working for them.
And I think we're going to eventually see a clog in the outfield a little bit. There's going to be a lot of guys in the outfield that battling for playing time. Tristan Pompey has been playing DH most of the time. We'll assume he's going to stick there, but he might come out in the outfield eventually. And Nick Angelini's out there, John Toppa's out there, Luke Bonfield's been out there, and you add some new guys to that outfield as well, like Stephen Kwan, and there's just a lot of outfielders, and it'll be interesting to see how the rotation works with the lineup, because obviously everyone's going to get some playing time in there, and it'll be interesting to see if maybe the head coach Don Sneddon decides to move Luke Bonfield into the infield a little bit, maybe some first base for him. I'm not sure exactly what his coaches at Arkansas were hoping for this season from him, but Luke Bonfield, another one of those versatile players, kind of like Willie McIver and Robbie Metz, that can play basically anywhere in the field, adds a lot to your lineup, is able to kind of fit in wherever the head coach needs him to on that particular day as well.
And the clog hasn't been a bad thing for the Gatemen in the past. We've seen the 3 catchers, Jake Anchia, Blake Sable, and Willie McIver. They've all sort of found their niche on this team, whether it's at third, whether it's at first, whether it's at the catching spot. I think all of them have done really well for this team, and they've proven that even though there might be a little bit of a backup at their individual position, they can come out on other spots at the field. So, like you said, first base is definitely a position to watch. Maybe one of the Gatemen outfielders, probably Luke Bonfield would be my guess, is a guy that could come in and take over that spot, even though Blake Sable's doing a great job.
I agree, and there's never really a problem with having too many people being capable of playing the same position. But like you mentioned earlier, Tanner Dodson was phenomenal in his pitching performance as well. But who else has stood out to you as a solid pitcher?
For me, it's been Justin Montgomery out of Cal Baptist. I mean, you look at his numbers, he's one of the only pitchers in the entire Cape Cod Baseball League with a 0 ERA at this point of the season. He's put together some really good starts for the Gatemen this season. I think he'll continue that throughout. And from a guy out of a D2 school, it's a nice surprise, because he got some big name colleges down that pitching roster. But the guy that stepped up the most is the guy with that D2 name at a Cal Baptist. It's been Justin Montgomery.
Yeah, and he was Coca-Cola Pitcher of the Week in week 2, by the way. And, you're going to go with Justin Montgomery. I'm going to go with another Justin, the lefty, Justin Glover, out of Georgia. He's been really good, and I've really liked what I've seen out of him, really commanding his fastball, and then he goes with the off-speed pitch. Mixing up speeds really works for pitchers in this league. That's why we've seen for, dozens of years that pitching is what's dominant in the Cape Cod Baseball League, and Glover from Georgia is continuing to show that, putting up good numbers, throwing scoreless innings, and getting a win for the Gatemen on the season.
Yeah, another pitchers as well as Miller Hogan. He got kind of outshined in that one game where Tanner Dotson had a phenomenal pitching and hitting performance, but he was phenomenal those 5 innings against Katuitt. So he's another one who's been consistent throughout the season.
Yeah, and Tanner Dodson as well. You just mentioned Tanner Dodson and Miller Hogan in that game against Katuitt. It was a phenomenal pitching performance, but by both of them combined. And Tanner Dodson, you talk about a guy who's been hitting very well. He's been pitching at the same level, if not even better. So just a guy that's just been adding so much to this Gateman lineup. And the Gateman pitching staff, just a great versatile player to have. You know, some games like that happened in Katuitt, you might see head coach Don Snedden be taking out the DH spot and putting Tanner Dotson in as the 9th hitter in the pitching spot. So when you can have that, it's a pretty cool thing to have in a league where DHs are almost an everyday thing.
Yeah, and last week we said, okay, we need the full pitching performance from these Gateman pitchers. So often we've seen a starter go 5 scoreless, maybe 5 innings, only giving up 1 run, a really good outing, and then the bullpen comes in and sort of gives it away, and then you have this line of bullpen pitchers. But when the Gatemen only throw 2 or 3 pitchers a game, those are the games that they tend to win. And finally, we are seeing those complete performances. We saw it on June 30th against the Kettleers, like you guys said. Saw it in one of the doubleheader games against Harwich, and the home game against Hyannis just a couple of days ago. So it's really all been clicking now for the Gatemen. I think we're going to see them continue to closen up these standings in the West.
And I also think that adding Brett Canine to this pitching rotation at the back order, maybe at the closer spot for the entire season, that's going to add something. He struggled in his first outing against Falmouth. That's going to happen occasionally. Occasionally you'll have that one rough outing, but I think for the future, Brett Canine is going to be such a consistent pitcher at the back end of this Gateman order, which is something that they really need, is that last inning guy, that some guy in the will come in the last few innings and really just shut down the lineup. And I think we should expect that from Brett Canine at a Cal State Fullerton, and I think he'll be, coming in here with his great breaking ball and his great fastball in the last inning and kind of just shutting down the order, making it so other teams really have to worry about scoring earlier on in the game before they have to face this guy at a Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah, that changeup, by the way, which has gotten so good, courtesy of his 2016 season with Jim Lawler.
Yeah, so a lot of good things going on. And like you were mentioning, you think we can close up the Gatemen can close up the standings because they've spent most of the season at the very bottom. So what do we think can happen going forward in this week 3 to kind of close the gap? Because they've been pitching and hitting much better.
Well, you called it the very bottom, but it really isn't that way because the West is it's so tight right now. Everybody's within a game or 2 of each other. We saw the Gatemen in that game against Falmouth that they eventually ended up blowing a 4-2 lead and losing in 11 innings. They could have gotten first place that day, and they dropped to 6 and 9. They worked their way up. They worked their way back to this point now where everything's really close, and no matter where they stand at this point in the season in early July, everything's the push towards August. So you just have to win as many games as you can now against teams in your own division. When you have games at home, you need to win those in front of your friendly crowd and continue the good mojo that the Gatemen have.
And I think for the Western Division, it's really about who can go on that big run here in July. It's going to be all 5 teams are currently, in the running for first place in that Western Division, and I think it's going to be one team here in July that just goes on a big run, maybe wins, 15 games here in the month of July or something, and ends up pulling away for first place and then leaving the rest kind of in a close battle. It's going to be interesting to see who that team is, and I think with the Gatemen's new additions and with their pitching staff coming in now, and with their pretty dynamic lineup, kind of guys that can move all around the lineup, guys that can come in and out, and good subs that you have to work with if you're head coach Don Snedden, I think that with those subs and with the pitching, I think the Gatemen are definitely gearing up for a big July run. If not, I think one of the other teams like a Bourne or a Katuitt could make a big July run and kind of pull ahead of the of the others here in this division.
I think it also matters who can string wins together and go on a consistent run. The Gatemen have not been able to win more than 2 games in a row. They've come close, and they just cannot get that third win. So I think that's going to be a big difference maker in the month of July, is who can get those consistent wins, who can go on a run, that kind of thing. So, like you said, that's about it for this first week of the season, and we'll take a quick break on Around the Horn, then we'll send it over to Matt Feld in our segment, Feld at the Field.
Alrighty, welcome back, guys. I'm Matt Feld. I'm joined by a pair of UConn stars playing out here for the Gatemen this summer, outfielder John Toppa and pitcher Mason Feole. And we're going to have a little fun with these guys. We're going to play some Would You Rather here on Saturday afternoon prior to the Gatemen's home contest against the Bourne Braves. And John, well, I guess we'll start with you. Would you rather be on the field or at the beach?
Oh, Jesus. Don't lie. The field, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, not even a question.
Mason?
The field.
Field?
Nah, I don't like the beach. The field.
All right, that's
I'm not
fine.
gonna say I don't like the beach, but I'm just going to say the field.
Question 2, would you rather wear a bow tie or just a regular baseball tie?
Like a baseball pattern tie?
Yeah.
Or a baseball pattern bow tie?
Yeah.
I'll go with the bow tie.
Mason?
I'll go with a regular tie. More professional.
Alrighty. Question 3 for you guys. If you guys were to make it to the College World Series, would you rather have John Toppa pitch or Mason Feole hit?
Oh, definitely Mason hit. Wait. Yeah, Mason hit, yeah.
Mason?
Yeah, I'd probably go with me hit too. I hit in high school. Tope didn't pitch. I'd love to see Tope on the mound though. Football arm. I feel like he strikes some guys out.
Alrighty. Question 4. John, would you rather play in 120-degree heat or negative 25-degree cold?
Oh, God. I'm gonna say heat.
Heat?
I'm gonna say heat.
Mason?
I gotta go with the cold. I like pitching in the cold. Like facing guys in the cold. Northeast, yeah.
All right, and our 5th and final question. John, would you rather have your name be John Feole or Mason Toppa?
Ooh. That's a good one. I like my name. I'm gonna stick with John.
We'll stay with John?
Yeah, I'll stick.
Mason?
I'm gonna go with John Feole. I had to keep the last name of the family. So I guess we're brothers now.
That's John Toppa. That's Mason Feole, a pair of UConn stars out here playing for the Gatemen this summer on this edition of Would You Rather.
Welcome back to Around the Horn. Our Jacob Tobey caught up with 2 community relations interns to hear what they're doing in the Wareham area.
Jacob Tobey along with Meg Ayers and Emily Quinn, 2 of our community relations interns here for the Wareham Gatemen. And guys, what are your roles with the team and how you like it so far being here in Wareham, helping out the team?
We're the community relations interns, and we basically just go into the community and interact with them and tell them about our games. I absolutely love it. I'm from Dallas, Texas, so it's nice to be around this area and the ocean, so it's really cool.
Go Patriots, Dallas Cowboys, no. Emily, how do you feel about all this experience so far?
I think it's awesome as well. We've spent some time going out to schools and a senior center, and they're all really happy when we come by. They love seeing the Gatemen. It's really important to go out into the community and give back, and the players have been great, and I've had a great time as well. I'm local. I'm from Dartmouth, Massachusetts, so it's great to see some great things going on in the community.
And yeah, talk a little bit more about how the little kids react, because obviously they're playing baseball. They love baseball. A lot of the kids do play baseball, softball. So how do they like it when they see these pros, about to be pros, coming into the game?
I mean, they're ecstatic. They really look up to the players, and you can just tell when we walk in that there's a certain feeling, and they all turn around and they really look up to them. So it's exciting to see the impact that we have, and it might seem small, and it's kind of difficult waking up early in the morning, but by the end of the day, it's really worth it.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I think Megan covered it pretty well. I think a quote that one of the kids was saying when they saw the Gatemen was, "Whoa, they're really tall. That's awesome." So I feel like there's a sense of them being very starstruck when they see the Gatemen, but they definitely do really look up to them, and they're role models for sure.
All right, there you have it. Emily Quinn, Megan Ayers, 2 of the community relations interns we have here with the Wareham Gatemen.
Thanks, Jacob. Now we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to wrap up the show on Around the Horn. Welcome back to Around the Horn. I'm Claudia Chakamian, joined by Corman and Connor Federico. So guys, we're through with week 2. Who has impressed you the most at the plate so far?
Well, Robbie Metz started this season at 2 for 20, and for a returning guy, that's pretty surprising. He was a Western Division All-Star in 2016, and now he's come back and he was hitting over 500 recently, and that's pretty impressive stuff from Robbie Metz. That's just crazy. He had a big triple in that 11-0 rout of Katuitt last week. He's just flexing his speed, his ability to hit to the opposite field, and his ability to basically do anything at the plate for the Gatemen, which is just something that they really need. We talked about the versatility earlier in the show. He's a guy that sums up that versatility in one player.
Yeah, and he's been really consistent for the Gatemen over the course of the summer since having that slow start. But a guy that's burst on the scene as of recently as a hitter, Tanner Dodson, he would be among the league leaders in batting average if he qualified with enough at-bats, but he wasn't getting them early in the season. Now he's starting to get plenty of them for the Gatemen as a center fielder, as a DH, as a designated hitter, as a pitcher. Wherever the spot is, Tanner Dodson can figure out how to get hits in the 2 spot, in the 9 spot. Maybe we'll see him fluctuate around the order, but he's been really good, hitting about over a 450 clip over the course of several games, and dating back to that 3 or 4 game stretch just last week, he was putting on a fantastic performance and really driving in runs, scoring runs himself, working with his speed, grinding out infield base hits. He's really doing it all at the dish right now for the game.
And I definitely think that if guys like Dodson and Robbie Metz and maybe Nate Fosnot coming back from injury recently, if they can start heating up, you'll get good at bats out of guys like Tristan Pompey and Willie McIver, and Jaron Duran. You'll get good at bats out of them. It's just some of those guys towards the bottom of the lineup. If they continue to hit that well, I think the Gatemen lineup is in very good shape.
Yeah, and so the Gatemen have a lot of good tools that we've been talking about throughout the show, both pitchers and hitters. So I know we're a little early, but the AllStar Game is going to be at Spillane Field in a few weeks. Who are your early picks to be going to that AllStar Game?
I mean, I got to go with Tanner Dodson again. When you do it on the mound and at the plate, that's really impressive. I think Robbie Metz, he was a West All-Star last year. He'll be returning to the All-Star Game this year. It's at Spillane Field. Last year it was in Chatham. Those are just a couple of early picks for me.
For me, I think Willie McIver, his batting has slowed down just a little bit, but that's only because he was hitting at a ridiculous clip at the beginning of the season. And I think that if Willie McIver can finish out these last few weeks as he's been doing in the first few weeks of the season, I think he'll be a lock for the All-Star Game, not only because of his hitting, but because of his great defense at third base and at catcher. We've seen him pick off some runners twice at first base, maybe 3 times at first base.
Twice at first base and a couple caught stealings too. Yeah. And the caught stealings, they're not even close. I mean, he has an absolute cannon, great instincts. He's got everything you want in a defensive player, whether it's at one of the corner infield spots or behind the plate.
And the other day in Katuitt, he threw out a runner at second base on a ball that was in the dirt. The runner took off from first, and he was able to throw him out after recovering that ball in the dirt and then picking it up out and firing a beautiful throw down to second base. I believe it was Robbie Metz that was fielding that at second base. So he's just been phenomenal defensively, and I think that defense should play a pretty big role in determining All-Stars because it's just as big as the offense. You saw a game earlier in which the Gatemen had 5 errors in one game, and it kind of cost them in the long run. That was against Falmouth last week at Spillane Field, and defense is important, and I think that defensively good, sound players should also be taken into account when selecting All-Stars.
I agree. So any more takes from you guys?
I mean, I think this is a week where the Gatemen, they need to be on top of their game. They need to click as a team together. Everybody's here because they want to show off their individual performance. Maybe that's the number one thing in each of these players' minds. But when you're having good individual performances and your teammates are having good individual performances, that usually means you're going to win a baseball game. And winning is certainly a lot more fun. You can tell the dynamic of the team. They want to win, and they go home a lot happier. They go to the post-game meals a lot happier when they're winning baseball games.
And I think the Gatemen will just continue to get better throughout the season, as most of the teams will, as some guys come in later on in the season. But I think the Gatemen, as we've seen the past few weeks, they're just continuing to get a lot better. this season, and I think that will continue throughout, and it's been a pretty good sign over this last week.
Yeah, just like that, we've been lucky to see some really good baseball over the past few days, and I think it's going to get a lot better from here. So that's all that we have for this week's episode of Around the Horn. Be sure to follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, and YouTube. For Connor Federico and Sam Corman, I'm Claudia Chakamian. Thanks for watching, and have a happy 4th.